One of the big questions I had coming into the Twisted and Twilight was how the traditionally terrible Wood Elf matchups would actually go. We know Dwarves vs Wood Elves was terrible for Wood Elves in the past, and we know Bretonnia vs Wood Elves was terrible for Wood Elves in the past, but with Zoats and the Aerial and the buffs to Treekin, the Azrai certainly have more tools to make it competitive. The question is, how competitive? Or is it a still clear-cut Bretonnia romp? Let's find out. I'm playing as Bretonnia, or Odell Sakeo is playing as the Wood Elves, and in the Vanguard is the dynamic duo, Durthu Oakheart and Ariel the Mage Queen, two terror-causing behemoths that can be incredibly hard to kill. Durthu has Flock of Doom, Lamentation of Despair, and the Sword of Daith, while the Queen in the Woods has Berry Wine and Apotheosis, which has incredible synergy with Durthu himself, Acorn of the Ages to slow down Knight charges and explode poopy peasants, and Soul Stealer for nuking the Grail Knight blobs that inevitably form when you try to take down either of these monsters. So it's a very top-heavy build, but difficult to shut down either, because Durthu and Ariel are really hard to kill. They support each other incredibly well. Now this unit right here, the Zoats, are the biggest game changer for the Wood Elves in this matchup. Essentially Dragon Ogres with magical attacks and bound spells, which is all you really need to know about them, right? 26 bonus versus large, AP, high mass monsters that wreck cavalry and bypass their physical resistance from the Blessing of the Lady. Tailor-made to help out against Bretonnia, and they have Earthblood and Flesh to Stone bound spells to make them even more survivable. Aside from that, it's just a bunch of Eternal Guard and Glade Guard, which means the arithmetic is pretty simple. We're busting out the order of operations for this one. You are not going to goon out Durthu or Ariel early. They're too tanky. So first, you isolate and kill the Zoats, so they can't support anymore. Then you prey on the archers because they've lost their mobility, and Durthu and Ariel can't do much to protect them. Then you kill the infantry and deal with the single entities last, when they no longer have any help. That is the only effective way to approach this, but it doesn't mean it's easy. And I think Lewin is still going to be a very competitive pick here. Lion's Shield, Sword of Corone, regen on a flying terror-causing monster. It's good to be the king. Pretty wide build as you'd expect, but not as wide as Bretonnia can go. I typically like to run some Elite Cav because it's easier to micro and heal compared to bringing like 8 low-tier Knights, so 2 Grails and 2 Knights of the Realm, and if they get a good charge off, they can still mess up Zoat's day bad. I mean, when Flesh of Stone isn't active, the Snapping Turtles only have 60 armor, so they will still melt 2 Grail Knight charges. And got a little Vanguard wing, moving silently through the trees on the right flank of the Wood Elves, but those Zoats look a little bit better than I expected them to. When you see the old artwork for them from earlier editions, they really don't look great, but I think the Snapping Turtle look they've got going right now is pretty decent. It makes them a little bit better, and of course CA added some leaves and other forest shenanigans to make them look like they aren't just straight up dinos, which is nice, but we might still make a video about my thoughts on them. They're not my favorite unit from a visual perspective, but they're a lot better than they could have been. Anyway, Peasant Mob are in the front ranks, and of course they're going to get torn up bad by all this Glade Guard fire. And actually shooting into the Damsel, the Lore of Life. Not a terrible idea. I mean, she's not particularly expensive when she's on foot with Regrowth and Earthblood. Probably around 750 gold or so, but not a lot of armor, so if you can land some shots on her, get her low, Durthu only needs 1 or 2 attacks and she'll be running real quick. Now, big change for Bretonnia a couple patches ago is the fact that they can fire pox arrows into cab blobs now and not poison their own stuff, which really helps them out tremendously. We saw a Flesh of Stone popped on the Zoats on the left flank. It looks like they didn't want to get shot up by peasant archers, but seemed a little bit preemptive. Ariel the Mage Queen and Durthu, they're that dynamic duo, and they're coming in, and this front wave is going to get the full brunt of it. Oh my god. Just squeezing the juices out of that poor guy. When life gives you peasants, turn them into paste. And nothing of value was lost. It's kind of a precarious position for the Ezra to be in right now because the peasant archers are all too happy to trade into the Glade Guard, but if the Glade Guard retreat out of range, Lewin and the Grail Knights have a buffet line set up to run them down, so Zoats will have to work overtime to protect the rear. There are only 2 of them, and Durthu and Ariel don't have the speed to help much besides maybe casting some Flock of Dooms or Soul Stealers. They'll be dealing with the infantry at the start of this match, and the sandwich is about to be buttered, ready to plunge into the oven for that golden brown crunch. Beautiful engagement, and this is what happens when you fight against Bretonnia sometimes. The cav is fast, you make a little micro mistake focusing on something else, and here they come. Yeah, Zoats are great at killing cavalry, but not when they're surrounded by 3 full units of bonus for large cav, Sword of Corone, Lion's Shield, all the debuffs popped. See, the Wood Elves are committing a lot to try to help out, but that Zoat unit is donezo, completely right off the start of the match. It was a nice counter to make up some losses there, though. Soul Stealer hitting everything, all 3 cav units and Lewin himself, and Lion's Shield isn't going to catch all the Grail Knights in that radius for the entire duration, so Soul Stealer bled a good 10, 12 models off of each of those cavalry units, and I actually took a lot more damage in that fight than I thought I would. Did get a regrowth, or rather an Earthblood, to heal up the rest of them a little bit, but yeah, that hurt. That hurt a lot. Still though, getting rid of a Zoat unit is massive. It makes it that much harder for the Azrai to defend their back line. It makes it that much harder for them to defend their archers, and it leaves Durthu and the rest of them a little bit more isolated too. Nice Acorn of the Ages. Gonna finish off some of the peasants in the center. The Eternal Guard should certainly trade well into the rest of the Bretonnian peasants, but of course, I don't really care about the men-at-arms in any way, shape, or form. It's all about Lewin and the cavalry and the second wave coming in now. Want to get out of that blob after the Earthblood is cast. Make sure you hit everything in the heel and then spread out a little bit more so we can mitigate some of the damage incoming from Ariel, from the Acorn of the Ages, and from her Soul Stealers, which are maybe the biggest threat on the field to Grail Knights besides the Zoats themselves. And at this point, we've killed 1 Zoat unit. Isolating the second one is top priority. Can't kill Durthu, can't kill Ariel. It's surprising how tanky Ariel is. She has 50 melee defense, which is high, but it is actually very surprising how difficult it is to kill her. So, nice little touch on the Glade Guard, deal some damage to them, maybe break them outside of the safety of Durthu and Ariel, but other than that, we can prey on everything that's run off so far, and Knights are certainly amazing in that type of role. Lewin looking good, Knights looking healthy, great start to the match. Peasants in range of the Glade Guard, and I'm feeling pretty confident right now. So we're coming in from the flank with some more cavalry charges. Nice Flock of Doom overcast from Durthu. Crow's going wild in the rear, ripping up my poor poopy peasants, and the Wood Elves, they want to push forward with the command center and get into those peasant archers without overcommitting. They want to keep the Glade Guard in a position where their Zoats and Durthu can maybe help out while still terror routing everything in the middle and rear of the Bretonnian battle line. So, they've done a good job dealing with the infantry formations so far. Archers aren't able to deal a tremendous amount of damage to Durthu. Even with the flame damage, he has high physical resistance, tons of armor, tons of HP. You just can't shoot him to death. You gotta use other means. The damsel getting chased by Durthu, she should be able to escape, but took a couple unnecessary hits, and this is a huge part of the battle. Okay, so big mistake there, and you might not notice it right away because it looks like an amazing engagement for me, and it was to an extent. I saw the Zoats isolated. It should have been immediate priority, click in my head, kill them off. I could have gotten a rear charge with the Grail Knights and finished them off, but I saw all those free archers and said, you know what? I can kill 3 full units of archers right now. That is totally worth. We win the game. We kill the Zoats. We kill everything. But they got healed. The Zoats got healed. I didn't commit enough units to the Zoats, and now Lewin, his attack animations have carried him into the center of the Zoat battle line. Those Zoats were toast if I hammer and anvil them. If I get all my cav and attack them at once, I would have done the exact same thing I did to the first Zoat unit. Instead, I went for the archers. I saw the juicy, squishy backline exposed, and it's gotten Lewin super low. He's not gonna die here, but he's down to 900 HP and has lost his beloved Son of Bretonnia buff, which means no more regen for Bakies, no more regen for Lewin, no more heals for him outside Earthblood, which I would much rather use on my cavalry, save up for regrowths, and make sure my Grail Knights stay in the fight. So, even though that looked kind of like a sexy engagement until Lewin got ran over, I could have killed the Zoat unit off, and that's what I'm talking about when I say order of operations. Very important in a matchup like this one. You kill the Zoats first, then once they've lost their mobility, you can deal with the archers on a whim. Don't have to worry about it at all. So without killing that Zoat unit, the fact that it's still alive means I'm on the back foot now. Not even remotely over. I've got a bunch of cav units left. I've got heals. Lewin is still alive. But it's now going to be a lot more challenging for me to get this game back into a position where I can take the win. And it doesn't take long. You saw that. I mean, Lewin came in with the Sword of Corone and Lion's Shield on the Zoats, and it was looking great for him because he had some cav support. But one attack animation plunged him into the center of a bunch of Dragon Ogres. Lion's Shield wore off, and he almost died. Scary stuff. Ariel is also scary stuff. The bullet with butterfly wings coming in and running over a bunch of peasants. She's also decent in melee. She's got 50 speed, tons of DPS from range, and in melee. She's an awesome character. So many ways to impact the battlefield with the Acorn of the Ages, Berry Wine, Soul Stealers, which have done a number on my elite cavalry so far. And at this point, even though it does look like my army is in tatters, the balance bar is certainly in favor of the Wood Elves. Gonna fight a retreat here, move backwards, get our peasants' leadership stabilized a little bit more, get Durthu isolated because he doesn't have a lot of support at this point. Just has Aerial and 1 unit of Zoats, and if we can kill those Zoats off, then Durthu and the Queen in the Woods might be the type of units we can cycle charge into Oblivion with Lewin. But we'll need some heals, so double fast forward to get it into position. Nice Acorn to rout off some of the peasants, and now a big heal, and there we go. This is exactly what we want. Go straight in, get a nice charge off onto those Zoats, Sword of Corone pop, lowering their armor and melee defense. Lewin on the Hippogriff can beat up on monstrous cavalry and monsters like these beasts. Flock of Doom hitting all my knights though, that'll bypass physical resistance. And I think it's one of the brilliant parts of this build. You know you're relying on your single entities as the Wood Elves with an army like this. You're relying on Durthu, you're relying on Aerial, so it makes a lot of sense to stack up debuffs and AoE spells that are great for clearing out and bypassing physical resistance. It's why you see Flock of Doom, Sword of Daith, Acorn of the Ages to slow them down and make disengaging harder for the Knights, and of course that Soul Stealer, which has butchered quite a few Grail Knights already in this battle. And Aerial's fast. She's not super fast, she's not fast enough to catch up to my Knights here, but she can definitely catch up to the peasants, and she's free at this point to go in and start causing terror in and amongst the peasant archers, and the Grail Knights and Knights of the Realm are dropping very low. Most of the peasant bowmen are gone. Lewin trying to cycle charge into Durthu, but he's a big, angry, genocidal tree man, and he also has expert charge defense, which makes that even more challenging. Balance bar well in favor of the Azrai at this point. The Zoats are gone, but it doesn't matter. They have a unit of Eternal Guard, Aerial the Mage Queen, and Durthu Oakhart, and it's gonna prove too much. A couple more attacks, round off the rest of my archers. Lewin goes in, stabilized for a second here. I was thinking maybe we've got a shot at it. No more routing for my Cav, fighting next to the King of Bretonnia. But yeah, it's not going to be enough. The Azrai should take it, and an interesting experiment from HDS and the Wood Elves. Could this be the kind of meta build we end up seeing that lets the Wood Elves finally compete with Bretonnia without having to spam Way Watchers and get lucky with some poor Grail Knight play or something? I don't know. I think it has some potential here. Zoats are definitely going to be at the core of what you try to do. There's no question in my mind that they are incredibly good in this matchup. But I don't know if you'll be seeing 2, 3, or 4. And I think that's the real question that I have is, will people go for full Zoat cores against Bretonnia? And I think there's a lot to be said for something like that. You saw HDS had some difficulties protecting his Glade Guard, and if you're going to bring 5, which has some benefits for sure, being able to clear out peasants quickly because of their low armor certainly helps, but protecting that many archers is also very challenging when you only have 2 Zoats. So I think more likely we might see something like Durthu and Aerial again, because they have so much synergy together. They have so much AoE wave clear that also pierces through physical resistance on Grail Knights and deals with Questing Knights and Knights of the Realm and that sort. But going for a 4 Zoat rush build, I don't know. I think the Knights of Bretonnia would struggle against that much Dragon Ogre, bonus versus large, armor piercing, killing power. It's tough to deal with, and more importantly, the blobs, the healing the Wood Elves can now unleash is pretty crazy, because the Enigmas of Gyran, a regiment of renown Zoat unit for the Wood Elves, have regrowth. So you combine that with Berry Wine, you combine that with Overcast Earthbloods or something of that nature, and you've got just an absurd amount of healing that should be able to beat the crap out of any Grail Knight formation that comes running your way. That's going to be scary for Bretonnia to deal with. With that said, in this particular battle, I think HDS played very well. Durthu and Aerial were used super well. But the big mistake that lost me the game outright was, and you saw it in the battle, I had an attack order clicked on the Zoats. I was about to get a rear charge, and then I saw the archers, and I just wanted to get all the range stuff off the field, and that squishiness ended up screwing me. I shouldn't have done it. It hurt me. Zoats with 3,200 damage value, 53 kills and 3 chevrons earned, and Durthu got 3,500 damage value, and there's nothing on my side that even got close to that kind of value. So, very well played to HDS. Link to his channel will be in pinned comment. Hope you guys enjoyed.